So the Chinle girls lost this past week in the first round of the Copper or the second round of the Copper playoffs. And that brings up some good questions regarding some of the topics that we talked about on the last episode regarding the Copper tournament and the North Region tournament and how it might be detrimental to some of these teams who continue to do the conference championship. The 3A state playoffs for the girls is continuing right now, and here to talk to us about their season and what they intend on doing in the playoffs and any other topics is Coach Greg Perkins.
Morning, guys. Glad to be here. Head girls coach and athletic director at Holbrook High School. And obviously, we're in the middle of it right now. We won our first game, and we're going to Payson on Monday, tomorrow. So.
Yeah, we're excited to see that. My name is William, and this is my co-host,
Mac.
Yep, and we are the Sports on I-40 podcast. So just a quick little shout out that I want to do for this opening here. There is a basketball tournament that is scheduled for here in Holbrook on March 15th and 16th. It's a youth tournament, as well as there's some slots there for an adult co-ed and a men's team as well. So please, if you don't want to get your young players to come out and get some experience, go ahead and contact the phone number you see up there on the flyer there. So please, it's a good opportunity to get some experience now that basketball season will be over by then, and hopefully we can continue to move on and allow these young people to move up and do greater things.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Nat Soldiers too, man. They're the ones putting it up.
Mm. Yes. So, Greg, I remember when I noticed that when the Copper division came out, and they wrote an article about this, and one of the things I noticed in this article was that the coach from Chinle was basically saying that the girls on their team were sort of bummed out that they weren't going to play for a state championship, but instead playing for the Copper championship. And this is a new thing going on for the schools this year.
Right.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, everything through AI basically takes a couple years to come to fruition. The 1A through 3A Open was introduced a couple years ago by a private school in the Valley. That's won, I think, 11 state titles in boys. Okay. I was one of the naysayers and still am one of the naysayers because my thought, and he's a good friend of mine, but my argument with him was, okay, let's look at Holbrook girls, for example. Holbrook girls in any sport have never won a state title in any sport ever. Okay. I just happen to know that. I've been here a while. It would mean more for Holbrook girls, and I was kind of speaking on behalf of other schools as well, to win a state title than it would an open title. And I argued that, and they being the other side of the argument didn't agree. No, open title will have much more prestige. My opinion was no, it won't. Honestly, it won't. And it's kind of playing out that way this year in the girls' side. In the boys' side, you have 4 private schools playing for the open title, leaving everybody else open for a state title. And actually, even AI their labeling needs to be changed. The brackets are legal state championship, and they're saying it's not a state championship, it's a conference championship. I said, then you need to reword your labeling, your brackets. I get what they're saying, I understand. And even in the bracket show that was last week, the AI bracket show, they went through and they said, well, it's been 30, 40 years since this school has won a state championship. And they were talking about the Copper tournament. That's not a state championship. And those schools that were in there that are vying for, at the time, an open and thus the state title, they're looking for, I agree with Coach from Chinle, at this point, a state championship, I think is more, what's the right word, more popular than the open championship. I just really think it is. And we saw it play out this week. I'm not going to use any names of schools, but I know for a fact there were some schools that did not want to win in the Copper. Yep. And it played out, and they're back in their respective conference championship or state championship brackets. I don't like the format of the Copper. I really don't. In 3A, for example, we have 2 teams, and it's not their fault, but they lost in the Copper tournament. Then you get a bye. and they're playing one game to get to the Final Four. Now, granted, they were number 1, number 2 all year long, talking Chinle and Snowflake, and well deserved, both very good teams. But to me, postseason, and I'm old and I'm old school. Postseason, you lose once, you should be done. Period. I don't like the fact that baseball has a double elimination postseason, or any sport. Postseason in high school, it's one and done. This new copper format, it's not. And a lot of coaches are, I could kind of see it coming. A lot of coaches are, no, it's going to be fine. But now they're kind of saying, wait a minute, it's not working out kind of like we planned. Because you have some teams in boys and girls that didn't want to win that copper game. And now they're back in their respective state tournaments. And very good teams and very good coaches. And I talked with a neighboring coach, and he and I agree that it's kind of taken away from some of the ethical part of high school sports, because you shouldn't be throwing games on purpose.
Yeah.
Just to get back in your respective conference. I have a lot of solutions for it, but my opinions don't matter. I'll bring them up when I go to the next AD's meeting. And maybe they're not solutions, they're just options of different ways they can do it. But I don't think it's panned out like they had hoped. 4A, 5A, 6A has one and have for several years. But there's a big difference between, there's not as much difference between a 4A and a 6A school in basketball. There's a bigger difference in levels of school, levels of play in 1A and 3A than there is 4A through 6A. Because you got some amazing athletes at all levels, 1A through 6A, but at 4A, you're going to have a pretty good group of kids. And so is 6A. 6A might have the pre-NBA type player, blah, 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 the Division I players, but you're going to also get those in the 4A. So I don't think there's a big gap in 4A, 6A as there is in 1A, 3A. And we can talk later about how I would approach it if I was in charge, which I'm definitely not. So, and they don't want me in charge.
So here's her quote. She says here, in my own thoughts, I do wish we could play our own 3A conference first, then do the copper tournament afterward.
If I can chime in on that, I proposed that.
Yep.
I said have your regular 1A through 3A state championships. Those 6 teams that play for the championship in those divisions, you have 6. Rank those 1 through 6 based on your PowerPoints. 1 and 2 get the bye. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. It would take 5 games to settle it. Because what you have then is you have your final 6 teams, 1A through 3A, all playing well at the moment because they've won a state title or been state runner-up. All those go into that extra tournament. It's 5 games. Could be done in 3 days. And then at the end, then you have a true small school state champion, if you will. And it could be a 1A, could be 2A, could be 3A. More than likely would be 3A, but this year in girls, there's 2 very good 2A schools. And I agree with Coach. I think that's a better format than what they came up with this year, because then you're still getting the best of the best, but there you're really getting the best of the best, and nobody's throwing a game. You're all playing to win your next game. It's still one and done for a state tournament, and which I think it should be. And I like that format. That's one of the ones I really like. That didn't go very far when I was putting my 2 cents worth in at the meeting. They said, well, no, we can't do that. It's extra time. Well, it's not any extra time. It's not. It's actually only 5 games compared to all those first round copper games. It's really not. It's 5 for boys, 5 for girls. So it's actually 10 extra games, which is still less than what they did with the copper. And the time frame's still the same. And a lot of coaches like it, but not the right coaches. So let's put it that way.
I see. Yeah. I noticed that there's really an overrepresentation of, because the copper, I think, was supposed to be a small school open, and it was supposed to, I would assume, give more chances to smaller schools to participate. But if you look at the 3A girls, for example, it's just exclusively 3A with Joseph City, Miami, and I think Phoenix Country Day and San Carlos. Right? And
Miami, Phoenix Country Day, 2 very good teams. Now, Miami turned out they didn't want any part of the open. They didn't play their 3 very little. They have 3 very good players. None of them played more than a couple minutes in their copper tournament. They wanted no part of it.
Yeah, they didn't even play their top player at all.
Yeah, Page beat them, and Page is very good, but Page beat them by 40.
Yeah.
And this is a team that put up over 100 points 3 times and was undefeated. And then to go lose by 40. But anyway, good for them. Phoenix Country Day has 2 Division I players on their team. They're a 2A school, but they've had 2 girls. I believe they're finally seniors. They are talented, very, very good. It wouldn't shock me a bit if they don't win the copper, because you got Tuba, Page, Phoenix Country Day, and Sholo, I believe, are the 3 other schools in there, and all good teams. But Phoenix Country Day based on what I've seen on film of them and having played the other ones a lot. And no disrespect to the other girls, but those two girls can flat out play.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see that kind of level of player up here very often.
Yeah, I think in the boys bracket though, I do kind of feel that sort of work. It made it easier for because the boys division is tough by itself, but putting the bigger schools like Valley Christian in a separate tournament, I think it does allow other schools a chance to win a state championship.
You're right. But in the boys, nobody wanted to play Valley Christian because Valley Christian is going to win, hands down, guaranteed again. But if you look at it, it's 4 private schools in the Copper Open for the boys. There was no 1A school in it. I can't remember who was the top dog, but they came close. But because it's all based on power rankings, which isn't exactly equitable because you're comparing power rankings of 3 different divisions, and none of them play each other. Mm-hmm. We didn't play Joe City. We played only a couple 2A schools. Joe City didn't play, that I'm aware of, very many 3A schools, if any. So you're comparing power points of teams that don't play similar schedules. And I kind of get it. That's kind of how you have to do it, but I just don't think it's the right formula. Mm-hmm. I think in boys, I believe we had the Copper, I want to say it was 10 and 6, 10 3A and 6 2As. In girls, the breakdown was kind of similar, except you did have Joe City in there for a brief time. They went up against Chinle. So ultimately, what you're going to have is you're going to have more than likely your winners in the boys, the 3A winners going to be probably Valley Christian. Okay, Gilbert Christian is a very good number 2 team, and Valley Christian beat them by 20 earlier. And anything can happen in high school. You never know. And in girls, you're going to have either Page, Tuba, Chinle, or Phoenix Country Day. And Phoenix Country Day is loaded, no question. But the AI will get what they like. They'll get a big crowd because either Page or Tuba is going to be in it. Mm-hmm. And then that's your crowd. Uh-huh. But then you go back to the 3A bracket, you're going to have possibly, well, we know Chinle's more than likely going to be in it. Snowflake, hopefully we can get it. We'll have to play a couple good games. But you just never know. When you look at the 3A bracket now compared to before the Copper, at least for me as a coach of the girls, I'm trying to find the North teams. Where's the North teams? What's our path? How many North teams are we going to run into on our way to hopefully a Final Four? Well, 2 of them are gone. Mm-hmm. They're not part of it, which in a sense also kind of dilutes the 3A state field a little bit. And again, nothing against the other teams that are in it. All good teams, all good programs. But I know other coaches are like me. Well, where's Paige? Where's Tuba? Where's Chinle? Well, Chinle's in it, but where's Paige and Tuba? They're not even part of the picture anymore. Mm-hmm. And I know they're excited to play in the Open, which good. But I think there's other schools, I think there's 12 of us now, more excited to be playing in the state championship. Mm-hmm. Or sorry, conference championship.
So yeah, Mac and I kind of touched on that either our last podcast, maybe the previous one, about how the potential for some teams to, I don't want to say intentionally lose, but rather be complacent about the game and sort of
both happened.
Both happened.
Yep.
You would say,
and it's wrong. Mm-hmm. Since we're on this, my other fix for it, which is just mine, and some other coaches agree, take 8 to the Copper tournament. And then, but up front, if you don't want to be in it, even though you might have qualified, you can opt out. Instead of playing a game where you're maybe not trying to throw a game, but you're okay with losing a game, instead of putting yourself in that situation, just opt out. Say, no, we're not going to go. We don't want to play in the Open. We want to play in our conference tournament. Then you go down to whoever's next on the list. Ask them. And then you end up with 8 teams that want to try the Win Open. But if you go, you make that decision, you're not coming back, regardless of your conference level. Mm-hmm. I think that's a better way to do it, maybe, because then you wouldn't have any teams that would be okay with losing a game going back to their conference tournament. You say your top 8, you're in. Do you want to be in? Yes, great. Go play. Good luck. You don't want to be in? Go play in your conference tournament. We'll ask the number 9 team up. Mm-hmm. That way, you're going to get 8 teams, and knowing full well if you lose, you're done. The season's over. Yeah,
I went to the Snowflake Monument Valley game that round. I think that's the first round.
Right.
And I want to say I noticed some complacency. It just kind of seemed like they were playing like this was just an extra game to them.
That's basically what it was. Mm-hmm. Because both teams had really nothing to lose. Because had Monument lost, which they did, they know they're going back. Ironically, they're playing each other again. Yeah. They know they're going back. And Snowflake, had they lost, they know they're going back. And then I was pretty sure Snowflake and Chinle didn't want to see each other in that second round,
Uh-huh.
and they ended up seeing each other, and one had to move on.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not positive they both did, but one had to.
This reminds me of a South Park episode where the kids they got entered into Little League baseball for the summer, and all the kids around the world were basically sick and tired of baseball, so they kept intentionally losing, and the South Park kids kept winning.
Yeah,
and it got to I think they got to the final championship, but like I said, everyone was just intentionally losing, and that's how they got to the championship.
Yeah, and it's just a bad taste or a bad feel to say intentionally losing in high school sports. It's happened for years. I've been around for a while. Back when the East region, back when 3A was just North, South, East, and West, 4 conferences, 4 regions, whatever. And there was a case where a couple local schools intentionally lost a game to get another team out of the tournament, just because of the way things worked back then. And they did it, and the other team got bumped out, which was wrong back then too. And now it's just a different feel. I get what AI was trying to do. I understand what they're doing, trying to get more teams into the mix, which, yeah, you might have gotten more teams into the mix early on. Bottom line is, at the end, it's going to be the same, essentially, set of teams. Difference is, Phoenix Country Day would never had a chance to play either Tuba or Page for a open championship, or Chinle, who they're playing in the first round. Or whatever round, the semifinal round, I guess it is. And Phoenix Country Day, they've been good. They've been building, and those 2 girls and others on their team, just really good players. And, for Chinle, and then either Page or Tuba, that more than likely plays them, they're going to see a couple players that they're not used to playing. But I think that's a kind of a generational thing with the 2A school. And maybe they reload again their private school. Maybe they reload again next year, which if they can, they can. But I don't know that this is going anywhere. I think it's a 2-year thing for sure, but I know there's going to be a lot of questions / complaints about it when we have our meeting later on in the spring.
Do you see this continuing for a few more seasons?
I think it's going to go one more. There might be some adaptations, though. I hope it gets adapted. Hope it gets changed. After that, we'll see. It's a different animal, in my opinion, than the 4A, 6A Open. Yeah. Because we're talking different numbers of kids, basically. And I don't think it's panned out like they had wanted it to. A couple of them, yeah. A couple of them that were real proponents of it, pretty much on the boys' side, is panned out like they wanted. So now they're potentially going to win an open title as opposed to another 3A state title.
Uh-huh. Is this sort of like back when they did, I want to say 10 years ago, or maybe 12, when they did the conference, they changed the conferences, so it was like Division 1, Division 2.
Yeah, we used to have, that was a little bit different. Yeah, they always want to tweak something. Now, with the number of schools growing in Arizona, they got to do something, because we couldn't have, back when we had 4 conferences, there's 7 regions now in 3A. I mean, there's just that many more schools, most of them in the Valley. So they have to keep changing something, either add regions or whatever. One other thing I don't like is I don't like region champions being automatically in, or in basketball and girls basketball, the top 2 get in. Maybe the region champion's okay, because some regions are really tough, and some regions, there's a couple of regions that, as it panned out in the first round of the Copper and even the pool play, that weren't overly tough. So
yeah,
it's been interesting. And looking at the tournament, I did notice that it was basically just taking out the best teams and putting them in a different bracket altogether. And it did allow, like I said, smaller school or other schools that may not have had a chance previously. Or I don't want to say didn't have a chance, but increased their chances of winning.
Yeah, it did. When you look at the, obviously as a girls coach, I'm more in tune with the girls bracket. When you look at the 12 teams, there's not 6 3A North teams in there. And again, nothing against other conferences. There's some good girls teams out there that aren't in the North. And the East has actually come a long ways in girls. Snowflake, Chinle, very good, obviously. It's just a different looking bracket. If you would have told me 4 years ago, say, okay, you don't have to play any North team to get to the Final Four. I mean, that's great. Okay, that hardly ever happens, because in girls there's so many 3A North teams in the top 10. This year there was 5 of them in the top 10. Now there's 2 less because of Page and Chinle.
With that, the way you guys are seated in the bracket right now, you guys got a pretty good chance of making it to the Final Four, man.
Payson's very good.
Yeah.
They've only lost 4 times all year. I know their coach really well. We played them a lot and they're really good. They have two things that have given us troubles over the years, and this year especially: a very quick guard and some size. And they have that. They played Page to a 3-point game, and a game that both teams wanted to win. I watched that game many times. And then they played Snowflake to a 4-point game, a game they had a chance to win. So they can play, and they're the real deal. Plus Payne and Payson, the mini dome is its own animal. It's just one person there makes it loud. So it'll be a fun game. Chaz does a great job with them, and we're hopefully prepared as best we can. It's just they have a quick, very strong, very aggressive guard, and they got some size, which those combination of those two things has kind of hurt us. Blue Ridge beat us with that. Yep. We got Blue Ridge the second time, and we don't have much size, so we don't have any size. So, but I think we're ready to go, and we'll see.
Yeah. So looking at 3A North Region Tournament, I noticed that once the bracket came out, it seemed like Chinle was basically playing the 3A North Region Tournament all over again.
Yeah,
because they got paired, I think, St. John's, and then the next portion they had Tuba City right after that, and then if they would have kept going, it would probably been something like Page or something. So
yeah, I mean the 3A North and girls especially, it's just some of those teams. I think this might be the 5th meeting between Tuba and Page this year, 4th or 5th, and you get familiar, but to their advantage, you're playing the best in girls. You're playing the best teams in the state every night. Window Rock. Everybody's saying, well, they've lost 12 in a row. I said, yeah, but how many other teams in the state would have lost 12 in a row playing their schedule?
Yep.
They played the 3A North. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other teams in other regions. We might have went 0-12 against that lineup. It's really hard to win in the 3A North for girls. Uh-huh. And I talked to a referee that did them a lot. And when they played us, he said, you got their best shot. When we played them on, was it Tuesday night last week? I think it was. He said, that's the best Window Rock have played in a long time. And I was proud of my girls. We played pretty well that night. But yeah, it's just, and the 3A North tournament is prestigious. It is prestige. They get a gold ball, just like the state tournament. Mm-hmm. And I think in some cases that means a little bit more to them, the 3A North tournament, than a gold ball might. Uh-huh. Because Page and Tuba not getting a gold ball this year because they're not going to play for one. They'll get whatever the Copper Division tournament is. Maybe it's a new car, who knows? But whatever it is, they'll get it, and it'll be prestigious. They are going to give each team, the Final Four gets a big banner to put up in your gym, whatever. But it's just a different feel. Uh-huh. I know Tyrone over in Flagstaff. They won it 2 years ago, I believe, maybe last year. They won the 4A conference title. And the first question people asked him, well, where was Sal Point and Seton Catholic? Because which were the two best teams in 4A? Well, they weren't in the 4A tournament. Mm-hmm. This year, if you win it, whoever wins it, they're going to say, well, where was Page? Where was Tuba?
Yeah,
they weren't in it. Chinle and Snowflake still in it, but because they lost.
They should do something like in the Copper. If you win the Copper, then they bump you up to 4A.
No,
and bring somebody down.
No, I wouldn't like to see that. Mm-hmm. I would like to see the first thing we talked about, the 6 teams that make the finals play 5 more games. And then you're going to get your true, for that year, you're going to get your best 1A, 3A team. Who's the healthiest, who's playing the best at the time. Because there's some good teams that, especially in the 1A, 2A, even 3A level, if I were to lose a certain girls to an injury, it just changes the dynamics of your teams so much. You can't, if you're a bigger school, you plug in the next one. We can't always plug in the next one with that same level of ability. And a 1A school certainly can't. I mean, you take the 2 girls off of Phoenix Country Day, and what are they after that? I mean, probably still a very good team, but not the level they are now. Yeah, like say 4A, 5A, 6A, you just grab the next one. So,
yeah. So the 3A North Region tournament, I'm assuming, I think Mac and I talked about last time, it's more like a tradition at this point. Because are they the only conference that does do a tournament like that?
They are, and it's a tradition. It's also money. The 6 schools in the conference get a pretty hefty split of the cut, and good for them. That is tradition. You've got Chinle and you got Window Rock, the 2 of the nicer gyms, probably 2 of the nicest gyms in the state as far as high school gyms. And it's a big thing. We've played it. Remember, we used to be in the North.
Yeah.
Way back in the day, we were in the North region, and just being part of that tournament it's fun. It's exciting, and what it does really is it helps them prepare for the state tournament too, because they're playing really good teams, especially on the girls' side, boys as well. But this year in boys, there was only 2 top 20 teams in 3A from the North. The girls are traditionally always there. I think it's something like I want to say it's something like 29 of the last 35 state champions have been 3A North girls.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy number.
Wow.
And that's just
Wow.
the way it is. But yeah, it's a fun part. It's a fun tournament to be in. It's prestigious, and it does help them prepare.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have an East Region tournament not that many years ago. When I was coaching girls, I remember we played Winslow in Chinle. The big thing that reason we didn't do it is PowerPoints. They proposed us at the time, and we're talking, I don't know, 15 years ago. They proposed us 3 options: not have one and it doesn't count for PowerPoints, or have one and it does count for PowerPoints. We voted for have one and it counts for PowerPoints. They nixed that because the other regions don't do that, which it creates an imbalance when other conferences can't get an extra game for PowerPoints. And at the time, there was only 2 or 3 pretty good teams in the East. Now there's 4 or 5 or 6. I mean, so you would have good crowds. And Chinle would be our biggest facility probably to host it, kind of central. We'd make a little bit of money, and it would be fun. And then the money, if we did it like the North, the money gets divided up among the 6 schools. But yeah, with Alchese back in the East, yeah, you'd fill it every night that they're playing. And even Holbrook fans are great. Chinle, Snowflake, Winslow fans. It would be a fun tournament. It's just, and yeah, kids can get hurt walking across the street. But if you were to lose a kid playing in a tournament that part of the year that didn't count, that's a tough pill to swallow too.
Yeah, I was kind of my criticism of the North Region tournament is the whole entire state is resting for a week.
Yeah.
And they're going up there and they're playing.
Yeah, and then they play on Saturday, and then in a lot of cases they played on Tuesday, in the Copper tournament this year. So there is that risk factor as well. But from a coaching standpoint, this is also a tough time of year to take a full week off.
Yeah,
it's hard because let's say if we play really really well on Monday, which is what it'll take to play really well and beat Payson, we wouldn't play until Friday. Okay, so that's basically 4 days off. Which, if you're playing well, you want to keep playing. If you barely squeak by and win by 1 on a last-second shot, maybe a couple days off is good. But if you're playing well, you kind of want to keep playing. A week off is a long time to wait. And you look at Snowflake and Chinle. Snowflake and Chinle in girls. When was the last time they played? I think Tuesday last week, and they won't play again until Friday this week.
that is.
That's a 11-day layoff for them,
Wow.
which is a long time for a layoff this point in the season. They're going to get tired of practicing against themselves.
Yeah, because they're in the Copper's in the semifinals, right?
Yeah, Copper's in the semis now.
And they're playing this Friday or next Friday?
Next Friday.
Next Friday. Wow.
Yeah, the Copper's in the same boat.
Uh-huh.
So those teams that won that, Chinle, Tuba, Phoenix Country Day, and Page, they won't play again until Friday the 27th. February 28th.
Oh.
Today's what, the 17th?
Wow.
That's a long time to be sitting.
Yeah, it's a long time to be in school, too.
Yeah, yeah, that too.
Yeah. So, going to the 3A conference specifically now, where do your girls fit in the tournament right now?
Just the 3A conference tournament?
Just the 3A.
We finished the season ranked 16th in PowerPoints because 2 went off the top line. Chinle and actually 3 went off the top line. That bumped us from 16 to 13. Because there was a bye, they have to balance out a 16-team bracket, okay, to make it fair. That's where the buys come into play. In 2A, 3 teams got a bye. In the boys and girls 3A, 2 teams got bye. In our case, Chinle and Snowflake got the bye. That's after the first round, after the pool games, which were a new thing this year as well. Instead of calling it the first round games, it's called the pool game. Still a state tournament game. You lose, you're done. So that's the reason. So we bumped all the way up to number 12 because 3 went off the top line. That got us to 14. And then 2 more, the buys, pushed us to 12, which is why. And now we're playing Payson, who was originally, I think they were 9 in the final rankings. And now they're up at 5. And then if we can manage to win, we would play the winner of, I think it's number 4, Push Ridge. And they're playing number, I want to say 17, Sabino, who upset Alchese, which is big for us or Payson. If we win and Sabino wins, then either us or Payson is hosting a game to get to the Final Four, which is unheard of. Those games are played in Prescott typically. But there's a chance that my girls can somehow win on Monday and Sabino can somehow upset Push Ridge. They played before. It was a 6-point game. They're in the same conference. Their rivalries are like 2 miles apart. If we win and Sabino wins, we would actually host Sabino Friday night for a game where the winner goes to the Final Four.
Oh, really?
Which is unheard of. Boys somewhat. Well, boys not as much the same case because in the boys bracket there was not a single upset. In the rankings, it went total chalk. All the lower seeded teams won. But yeah, it'll be different because you got Chinle sitting there waiting with a bye, Snowflake sitting there waiting with a bye, and they're going to await the winners of whoever ends up playing Friday night. So they got some time off, and if I was I wouldn't want a week off. Now, if you have a kid get injured, blow an ankle or something, where a week off is beneficial, yeah. But if you're playing well and playing healthy, a week off is just a long time to be sitting at this point in the year. I think, personally, as a coach, because you can't replicate 3A state tournament competition in practice. You just can't. The crowds, the competition, up and down. You can try, but it's hard to do.
So I guess take me back. So who did you play last year in the playoff? Your final game in the playoffs last year?
We won the first game against. Geez, I don't even remember. We ended up we beat Tuba in the first round. Yeah, we finished as the 22 seed. We were lucky last year. We got in as the 20. Now, had the Open or the Copper been part of last year, we would have finished a little higher. But yeah, last year we finished ranked number 22. We went to Tuba, who was number 11, and we escaped with a 1-point win. And then we went to
game too,
overtime. I think it was. Yeah. Then we went to Fountain Hills, who we had beaten in a tournament earlier pretty handily. And they have some really good guards, and they beat us by 10, 11, 12 points down there. I was proud we got there, number one, because didn't have the best of teams last year, I didn't think. And we escaped at Tuba. It was a good matchup for us, and game could have gone either way. The last shot they took hung on the rim for a while and just kind of rolled off real slow, and had it gone in, we wouldn't have done it. But since it came off, we won.
So after that loss, what do you do after that to prepare, other than take a break for a few months, I'm assuming?
I take a break. We open the gym up after spring break. I take a few weeks off. Girls need some time away from me. I need some time away from them. The gym rats don't like it, and I have some gym rats that's important. They're ready to get back in. After spring break, we open the gym a couple times a week, and we get back at it. Summertime is always big for us. The first 3 weeks of June, we play about 60 games in the program, about 40 varsity and what would be varsity, and 20 for younger kids. Then you get back at it. And that's just how I've been doing it for I don't know, too long.
So now you've gone through the summer portion of it, and you start getting closer to the start of the season. How was your approach this season compared to last year? What were some of the changes you wanted to do? Was there any type of special changes to your offense or anything like that?
Well, strangely enough, I had a good plan going in that we'd be a 94-foot team defensively. I knew we were going to be quick. I knew we had no size, because I didn't see any 6-footers walking around that were going to play. And we're about 180 degrees away from where I thought we would be now to where we are at this point. Illness was huge this year. I'm jokingly tell my girls, you guys are the sickest team I've ever had. Jokingly tell them that, because we can't shake the bug. I've had girls who've been coughing every day since November 1st. And going into tomorrow's game, yesterday at practice, I got 3 girls sick. Head colds, nothing major, but they're not feeling well. And so we couldn't really get in shape, because to play Mac knows, to play 94 feet, full court man's what I wanted to do, you got to be in shape. And we couldn't get there. I had girls missing practice right and left. And, every school has to deal with that. Just seemed like we had a huge amount, higher percentage this year than usual. So we kind of pulled back a little bit. Probably our best defense right now, we played against Winter Rock. Our half court, we call it 3-point line 11, our half court man-to-man defense, where we switch everything because we're pretty much interchangeable because of our lack of size. That's probably our best defense right now. And I wouldn't have guessed that sitting there in October. I would have thought, well, we're going to be a really good pressing team, because I knew I had some quickness, but it never really morphed into that. And so now we're at this point, you go with what your best thing is. And our best thing right now is half court man. So, but yeah, it was different outcome than what I had anticipated. Some years goes just exactly like I thought. This year, and having a couple freshmen on the team that are very talented has changed that a little bit. And the girls have done a great job of just kind of morphing along with what we got. Mac knows. I used to coach Mac back in the day. When did you graduate?
2002.
2002. I was a horrible boys coach. I'll be the first one to admit it. Okay. But with the girls, I'm anti-zone. I don't believe in zones. I don't like playing them. Against the teams we play, a zone is just an invitation to give up a 3. A lot of teams think we play zone because of the way we play man. It looks like a zone. I've had a lot of radio commentators over the years. Holbrook's back in their zone. I just kind of shrug my shoulders. And it's good because a lot of teams that don't know us will try to run their zone offense against what is our man defense. And once the girls buy into it, yeah, it does look like a zone, but we will never play zone.
Yeah.
Well, I know at the beginning of the year, you guys started out pretty well, I thought, at the beginning of the year.
We played Winter Rock great.
Yeah, it was like Winter Rock, and then you guys played Ganado and had a good game against Ganado. And I felt the team that played against Ganado could have, played against anybody in the state. But then right after Ganado, kind of just went into a slump for a while.
Well, that's where the illness really hit us. And take nothing away from the Ganado's teams. They're very good. We played Winter Rock. We won by 30 points, which was shocking. I was always really worried about Winter Rock coming in for the first game of the year because we're really young. And illness started, not to make excuses, illness started creeping in, had girls missing practice because they just physically weren't in school and playing these good teams. And then once you start losing early on in the season, kind of tough to get out of that, especially with a young team. I mean, I played 3 sophomores and 2 freshmen a lot. I had some really good seniors, and they were sick. So it just took some time. I didn't want to lose that many. We lost to Blue Ridge and Winslow, 2 East Region teams before Christmas that we don't hardly ever play before Christmas ever scheduled. This year we did, and those 2 losses hurt. Looking back now, didn't hurt us a bit. At the time, I told my girls, I said, man, girls, we're in trouble. We're in last place in the East. We got to find a way even to make the state tournament because just my own little thing. I've told the girls for years now, I said, if we don't make the state tournament, I'm done with coaching. And last year I was close to being done, and I will still stand by that. And this isn't a threat or anything. I said, girls, I'd like to coach, but if I'm not getting you guys to the state tournament, I'm not doing my job. That's just how I look at it. And last year was close. With that, I think it was the Winslow win last year. I think was the one that got us over the top to 24. To 22. This year, the 4 wins in January. We came back when we were sitting there 1-6, having lost to Winslow and having lost to Blue Ridge. I thought we were in big trouble. But the girls did a good job over the break. We went to the Chinle tournament where things kind of come together always. It's a good bonding trip for us. Yeah. We play some tougher teams, some teams we don't normally see. We ended up getting second in that tournament. And really kind of brought them together. Kind of saw some things, we caught a fire a little bit. And we came back and won the first 4 in January, which at that point, the Snowflake win was huge. It was really big. And that kind of kept us up in the rankings because they were number 2 or number 3 most of the year. Yep. And that win really propelled us. And then we got Blue Ridge again. We got Winslow again. So it was a more comfortable final 2 weeks this year. I wasn't thinking, well, am I going to have to clean up my girls' team room or not? So it's still mine for now.
It seemed like maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe 4, somewhere around there, it kind of seemed like you guys were in a position to potentially win the East. I thought if some things went your way, obviously you had Sholo and Snowflake.
We were 2 games away. Yeah, I told the girls, and I'm not one to hide PowerPoints from them. Some coaches don't want to talk about it. I'm straightforward with the girls. I say, hey, you have a chance to win the East. You're going to have to beat Sholo. Okay? If we would have beat Sholo, and they're a very good team, if you could beat them, you'd already beaten Snowflake once. And then if Snowflake would have beat Sholo, I can't remember which way it went. There was a way that it could have happened. If we could have won out and somebody would have had to have a little bit of help, we could have won the East. And which you would have told me that start of the year. I'm like, no way. But we finished 3rd. I think we finished 5 and what did we finish? 6 and 4, something like that in the East. Which for this team is pretty good. I have some very good seniors that give me a lot. And then this younger group. And this younger group, hopefully they don't go anywhere because they're pretty young. But yeah, we talked about it. I said, girls, and I'm not going to hide it from any of the girls. Some coaches, like I said, they will, and that's their prerogative. We talk PowerPoints as soon as they come out. We got to this, we got to climb here, we got to get here. I'll tell them this is a big PowerPoint game, or this is one when we're playing Snowflake the second time. I said, girls, we got nothing to lose. Even with the loss, we're not dropping. Yeah. Because when you play somebody that high, the way PowerPoints work, you don't drop. And I said, you can't lose to anybody below you. When we played Winslow and Blue Ridge at the time, and I'll just say they were below us. I said, you lose to a team below you, you really drop. So that's why, and fortunately we didn't. So, PowerPoints are what it's all about. So as far as into the season stuff.
Wow. So one of the things I've noticed about the team is sometimes their play can get out of hand. And what I mean by out of hand, they just start
Chaotic.
running, and chaotic, and shoot like 6 3-pointers in a row.
Sometimes we play res ball. Okay. Res ball is fun. It's a way of playing. All I've done over the years or tried to do is add some defense to it. There's not a lot of defense in res ball, and there's not a lot of discipline in res ball. Because I used to play in those tournaments back in the day, and they're a lot of fun. Yeah, sometimes we want to create some chaos, okay? Because depending on the team we play. Now, if you played we had a game, a Winter Rock the other night. There was one trip where the ball went through like 4 of my girls. They end up shooting a layup. Winter Rock does because they everybody get their hands on the ball. But yeah, but then we shoot a lot of threes, partly because of lack of size, no question, and partly because I got some 3-point shooters. Mm-hmm. And I've always been of those mindset that you can't make them if you don't shoot them. And as long as they get their feet set, I've got 4 or 5 girls that can shoot threes. They all have a green light to shoot. Mm-hmm. I tell them the first day of practice, everybody has a green light to shoot a 3. Everybody. I said, I will tell you during a game when the light turns red. Uh-huh. You miss 5 in a row, or you're taking tough shots, then stop shooting for a while. Yeah. Or penetrate, try to get to the line. But our issue with penetration is, there's some big people inside, and we don't have any of those.
Yeah, I think I've heard you during the game where you're saying no threes.
Yeah, well, last Winter Rock, we had an 8 or 9 point lead, I think midway through the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't need a 3 now. Spread them out, because the one advantage for us being so small is their big girls got to guard one of my small girls, especially if we have a lead. They got to come out and get us. We call it 5 out, pass and move, pass and move, pass and move. At some point, we're going to be able to go around a big girl. I said, and take 30 seconds off the shot clock. I love the shot clock, okay? Mm-hmm. But we're terrible at knowing when it's going to run out. Mm-hmm. We're just horrible at getting the shot off in the last 10 seconds, which is, we work on it a lot, and then they freak out in a game. I said, girls, no one gets to 10, then you want to try and score. Because taking time off when you have a lead is a good thing. But I like 5 out because we're going to play that, hopefully, tomorrow. Because Payson has 2 big girls. Now, they're not typically Payson 6'2". They're 5'11", both of them, which is much bigger than us. They got to come guard us. And we're going to try to move, get them moving around, and hopefully get a lane to create some space and get a shot. Yeah, I like the 3-point shot. It's not a hard shot. It's too close for high school. It really is.
They should move like a foot back or something.
I think college level we fine.
Yeah, what is that? Is that a foot or 2?
I think it's a foot. Yeah, 21.9 or 29. Because Channing and all my shooters, they have no issue shooting that far out. Mm-hmm. When I first saw a couple of them this summer, I saw one shoot a 25-footer and it went in. I was like, whoa.
Do you think Caitlin Clark has really made an
I think so, yeah. Probably the next level up right now.
To shoot a lot more 3-pointers?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe in her age group, Division I and junior college. I don't think it's bled down to high school yet because they're not strong enough to shoot that shot from that far out. Now, I have 2 freshmen that can shoot that shot, especially one. But she was doing it before the Caitlin Clark phenomenon came about. And I love watching Caitlin Clark. I think she's a great player. Obviously, her game has holes like everybody else's does. But, yeah, she's the logo 3s weren't a thing 10 years ago. If you had a kid that pulled one of those, the horn would go out before the ball hit the rim. It's like, get out. So, yeah, and the issue is, when you shoot a lot and you have a coach that lets you shoot a lot, it's hard sometimes to turn the light red. But typically, I turn the light red for him. Yeah, the other game is no more 3s because we don't need it. Now, if you get behind, for us, because we don't have a lot of huge players inside, we're going to have to make some outside shots to kind of get us back in the game.
Now, how come there's not very many mid-range jumpers that you guys shoot?
Nobody practices them.
Nobody practices.
Seriously, you go in a gym. There was a coach, Mark Felix, years ago, coached Blue Ridge boys. And I went to his gym, and he had red lines taped about 2 feet inside the 3-point line. Just a little red floor marking tape. I said, Coach, what are these? He says, that's where we want players to shoot defensively. He says, nobody shoots there anymore. And he's right. As a coach, he's right. We go in there, you shoot all your shots in the paint. And then where does every kid gravitate to? 3-point line. From junior high age when they're too small to shoot it. That's why they get bad form. Okay? Nobody shoots the mid-range shot anymore. Nobody does. And he says the tape was there for defensively. He wanted his opponents to shoot there because nobody does anymore. And my team included. Our 2-point percentage in the paint is higher than our 2-point percentage between the paint and 3-point line. Wow. Okay? Yeah. And it's not a hard shot, but we don't shoot it. Yep. And most teams don't, if you think about it. I have a girl on my team who kind of struggles right now from 3. She's deadly from 16 feet. It's hard to get her to take that shot because you're either going to the basket or you want a 3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and the kids these days don't shoot that shot. Even watch the NBA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of like really annoys my dad. He
I bet. Yeah.
he grew up like, basketball in the 70s and the 80s where it was a lot less 3-pointers and more, but everyone was taller. They played the inside game a lot back then, but yeah, he's still in that old mindset of.
Well, yeah, there's no true post players anymore. Even NBA, is there a true post player? There's no Tim Duncans that are banking it in from 16 feet. Mm-hmm. Those don't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. It's either dunk it, which is easy for those guys. I think they should raise the rim in NBA myself.
It's like 12.
Yeah, 12 would be nice. There's still some guys who can dunk, no question. Mm-hmm. And then you can't move the 3-point line back any farther because then you'd be out of bounds on the side. Mm-hmm. So they're talking about putting a 4-point shot in, which I think it would make it even worse.
Yeah.
I could shoot the ball pretty well. I've never made a 3 in high school. You know why?
Because you were taller than everybody?
Nope. I was one of the shorter guys on my team.
Oh, really?
3-point line didn't exist.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We shot out there all the time, but it's only worth 2.
Trick question.
Yeah. I'm old.
And what year was that?
I graduated in 80. I think 3-point line, came in at 85 or 86.
Wow.
In high school.
Wasn't it like an experiment? Was it the 84 national championship? They put 3-point line.
Jeez, I don't know. I can't remember.
Houston versus NC State.
Might have been, yeah. Experimental.
Yeah, that was.
I like it. I mean, I think it's changed the game for a while to a positive. But now with little kids, I don't think we should have our junior high kids shooting 3-point shots, even though I benefit somewhat from it as a coach. I just think they need to focus on, and little kids, this youth one coming up shouldn't be a 3-point shot because you guys know how bad is some of the form we get from kids who aren't strong enough to shoot a 3. They're down here launching below their waist just to get it up there instead of shooting from 10 feet away, working on their form. And I don't think it should be allowed until high school.
Yeah, that's interesting. My whole life, I've always seen the ball, backwards like this when they shoot.
Yeah.
But I've seen a few players out there when they shoot, it spins like a globe.
Coaching lesson, you know why? Because when they're little, they got to have their left hand high if they're a right-handed shooter. Left hand's got to be high to hang onto the ball. Instead of shooting it with one hand, as it comes up, it shoots off your left thumb, which makes it spin sideways. And that's it comes from shooting too far out when you're too little. And then some kids just don't ever get past that as they grow up.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
Because when you're down here loading up as a 8-year-old or whatever, you shoot it here, it comes off the thumb wrong and it spins sideways. And some kids don't ever get out of that because it's just. And how do you get out of that? You do form shooting from 6 feet away, over and over and over again. Be like Steph Curry still does form shooting from 6 feet away, and then he goes and shoots 500 threes a night. So, but, I mean, in this practice time, with this personal trainer, all that stuff that we don't have. I have a girl on my team that shoots. She says she shoots about 300 a night.
Really?
And it shows. So,
well, I don't think I ever took a high school sport that seriously.
Well, that's a whole different topic, but yeah, it's changing over the years. It really is.
How has the landscape of basketball in the North and East changed since you've started coaching here? What was your first season your first season here in Holbrook, or your first? You got hired here in Holbrook in what?
I coached boys in 93.
93.
And again, I was a horrible boys coach. Well, I actually was Mendoza's freshman coach the first year I came, 93. Then he left, and I got the head job when he left, and I was terrible at it. The boys at that point in time, good guys, great kids, not kids anymore. They're in their 40s, but they thought they were Michael Jordan, and they wanted to go 1-on-5, and we just didn't have that ability. And it didn't mesh with my coaching style, blah, blah, blah. And so I did as boys coach for a 2-time stint, lost the job for a couple of years, deservedly so, got it back. And then I think I did it 3 more years the second time, I believe. And then ended up being a referee for a couple of years, which I understand referees more than most because I used to be one. And then the girls' opportunity came up, and the girls had found out. It's kind of helped Larson for a month. And I thought, you know what, these girls kind of listen to what I have to say as far as the basketball X's and O's. And that's why I think it works pretty well. I probably still couldn't coach guys.
So again, how did the landscape change as far as athleticism, players? Like, for example, this is one thing I noticed. Even 20 years ago, it seemed like every North team had one person that only shot threes.
Yeah,
And that was what they were known for, was just shooting 3 pointers.
Right. That's been a change in the game. When I took over girls, Winslow, every team had a shooter. Okay. And then there was more post players. Monument Valley, the Nash girl. Window Rock, the coach, actually, it's the boys' coach now. Mitchell, I think is her name. Ashley. Yeah. She was a tough post player. Mm-hmm. There was more post players back then than there are now. Yeah. Look at Chinle now, Lejeune. She's a great post player. She can shoot threes. Look at Monument's player, number 40. Man. Kiara Mann, great post player. She can nail it from 3. She had 3 threes against Snowflake the other night. And what's happened is all these bigger, taller players that used to be just post players, they've now morphed into outside shooters. Mm-hmm. So they have more of a complete game. Mm-hmm. And that's changed with boys as well. Boys, Devin Dugai was a name from Tuba City. That's the last boys team in the North to win a state title. I think it's been almost 30 years. No, almost 25 years since the North boys team has won.
Is that the team that had the two Pete?
Yeah, they won 2 years in a row. Had the Justice kids, I think was the last name, and then Devin Dugai was. I'm probably saying it wrong, but he was a 6'4" player. Yeah, 6'4" guard. Okay, very skinny kid, but he was really good. And they won 2 years in a row, and the 3A North boys haven't won since. Mm-hmm. And just because in the landscape in boys, in the North, they don't have the physical size to compete with the South. The boys in the South caught up quicker to basketball to the North quicker than the girls have. There's still some good girls teams down there, but the girls teams in the North are just advanced over the teams in the South for the most part. Mm-hmm. Valley Christian has a good team. They kind of play, and I'm talking to their coach several years ago. He says, we try to play res ball with our girls down here. He says they can't quite do it. He says, but we understand in girls, that's the trend you have to get to compete with the 3A North. Mm-hmm. I said, you're probably right. They have these big 6'2", 6'3" post players. Can't get up and down the court. And they're coming against a team like, not mine, but I've had some good teams over the years that will just blow past them. And they can't keep up. Or we press them and their guards aren't used to pressure. Whereas in the North, every team in the North can handle pressure because they all press. Those teams in the South, when they play each other, teams in the West, it's more of a slowed down, deliberate game. Probably a lot of shot clock violations. Mm-hmm. And it's more of a post-up game. And then you put pressure on them. You pressure those guards, speed the game up, and they sometimes struggle with it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Miami has that similar type game.
Yeah, Miami's got that. They got 2 really good. Yeah. The coach's daughters are both really good, mm-hmm. And they play similar to what the 3A North is. Yeah. That's why it was so shocking. That's why they're good, yeah. Shocking, not shocking when Page beat them by 40. Uh-huh. So I think those 2 teams play regular season game. It's a very good game.
That would be amazing to see, man.
Yeah, but obviously Miami they will more than likely win the 2A state title.
Now that Phoenix Country Day is in the Copper.
Exactly. Yeah. They're the only team to beat Phoenix Country Day this year. Uh-huh. They beat them by 6, I believe.
The tournament too,
yeah.
Right, or something.
So Miami, there's never a cakewalk in the state tournament. You got to have, like old coaches have told me, you got to have some luck to win a state title. No question. Look at our boys in 2011. If that kid I'm glad we won it, no question. But the kid from Fountain Hills doesn't sprain his ankle and missed 9 minutes of the game, he was tearing us up. We probably don't win that game. Mm-hmm. And nothing against, you don't want to wish bad luck on anybody. But that's right there's an element of luck when that kid who was really hurting us misses 9 minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. And our boys came storming back, got the crowd into it. The referees realized there was 15,000 people there and kind of choked on it a little bit, mm-hmm. and which is to our benefit. And if that kid doesn't go down, it probably doesn't have that outcome, just because he was a really good player. Now he's our coach, I believe. So just one of those things.
Yeah, I remember what that game. I guess everybody from Holbrook remembers that game. But
oh yeah, it was a great game. Mm-hmm. I was down there, and it was a great game. And I was thinking, man, this kid's tough. And then all of a sudden, this kid's gone. And then the Holbrook fans are amazing. They got into it. And what's kind of fun, and Mac knows this too, is when you get to that level, boys or girls, the native fans, unless you're playing their team, they're on your side. And the crowd it gets amazing. I'll just say, just an amazing group of fans. They've liked us for years. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're not playing them, okay, which is understandable. That's the way it should be. Yeah. But yeah, you get in those big arenas. We played, I think it was Chinle in the semis. And we played in 4 Final Fours. And the crowd is just amazing unless you're playing their team. Okay, you're playing a team that's not a native team, you can pretty much guarantee they're on your side. And then the other teams from the South or the West that have never played in front of a big crowd, they're like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. And it's to our benefit. Mm-hmm. And it's a credit to the fans up here, because it's the style of play makes it exciting.
Yeah.
We played, I can't remember who it was. one year in the playoffs, we played Tank Verde maybe. And I had my son who lives in Tucson. I said, go scout this team. And he calls me and said, are you sure this is a state game? I said, yeah, why? He said, there's 50 people here. And they were playing somebody in the first round of state tournament. And I said, can you go scout them for me? And that was back before all the films were online and everything. And he calls me and says, am I in the right gym? He said, this is state. He said, there's 50 people here. And we were playing somebody that there was 3,000 people somewhere. I said, yeah, that's the difference. And then we played them in Prescott and in front of 9,000 people. And you could tell they just, once the game gets going and things go your way a little bit, 3-pointers, to be honest, crowds love them. All of a sudden they're just like, whoa, this is real. And they're not used to that.
Yeah, it was unusual for me. I remember I had a cousin that played for Casa Grande High School.
Yeah.
And they went down to play Rincon High School. And I was at U of A at the time. And I went over there to watch. And there was maybe just the parents of the players that were there. We went to that not 8th grade. Was it the 8th grade girls tournament? This past weekend?
Yeah.
And I was telling my fiance,
boys.
I said there was more people at the Hewlett gym than there was at that.
Yeah.
I think they were 5A or something at the time. So
and that's just the nature of the game and the nature of our fans. That's, if you want to quote it, that's Resball. People like watching basketball around here. It's bled over a little bit. Snowflake brings a big fan base now. Sholo, because their girls are getting much better. Sholo girls basically outdraw their boys, currently, because their girls are really good. They've been in state finals and Final Four the last 2 years in a row. Not this year, because now they're in the Open, and that'll be a big crowd base, I would think, for them as well. But it's just a fun atmosphere. It can go the other way too. Little Taylor and Spencer, I love the girl to death. We played Altusay at the last time we were in the Final Four in the semis. Team we should have beaten. And Taylor admitted this after the fact. There was 14,000 people, and they ran a press that we knew she could beat by herself. Because remember, Taylor had a little short, fast, great girl. She told me after the game, she kind of struggled that game. She says the crowd got to me because Altusay's crowd is loud. And that's what the crowd was kind of a 50-50 split, with 14,000 people making noise is a lot. And she told me a couple weeks after the fact, she says, man, the crowd got to me. I said, Taylor, you're used to playing in big crowds. She says, not that big. So it can impact even our kids as well.
Yeah.
But when you're playing these schools that have 50 people and they walk out and there's 2,000, it's an eye opener. And it works with referees a little bit too. When you have refs that are used to Valley refs that are used to coaching or reffing in front of 100 people, where you can hear everything basically, and all of a sudden they're reffing a game when there's 6,000, 10,000 people, it can change that a little bit too.
Yeah, and everybody's yelling at the ref.
Oh yeah. Well, the whistle blows, half the people hate you. So it doesn't matter how good or bad a referee are. When the whistle blows, half of them hate you, just like that.
So why did they not decide, or why did they not have the any portion of the tournament in Prescott this year?
We're all asking the same question. Okay, I don't like the fact that the higher seeds are hosting all the way to the semis. Prescott was a great venue. I don't know if whoever runs Prescott now, whoever owns that, decided not to, or if the prices got raised too high, or if some other events going on. Prescott was fun, and Prescott was kind of the next big step before you went to what used to be Glendale. Veterans is a dump. We all know that.
Yep.
I believe somebody told me AIA bought it. Veterans is, it needs upgrades. Somebody said they put $20 million into it. I'm not sure where.
That's right.
The seats are bad. They're stained. You got pigeons flying up above you. Parking lot's not ideal. It's big, but it's not ideal. The locker room, it's only 2 in that big building. There's 2 locker rooms. The one we used last time we were there, mold in the carpet, wires hanging down off the ceiling, smelled really bad. We couldn't wait. Actually, we left pretty early. We went out in the hallway. Just the venue, the floor is good. Okay. And when you get 14,000 people screaming, you kind of forget about all the other stuff until you're back behind the scenes. And having been in Glendale 3 times for the Final Four, just a much nicer facility, more modern.
I think I like back when they used to have it in Flagstaff.
Flag, yeah. We all talk about that when I think it was 1A, 2A, 3A at Flagstaff. You had a game at 8 o'clock in the morning. They ran all day.
Yep.
And boys, girls.
Everybody
that was
could
awesome.
just show up to gyms, and that was the time to see all the other teams too.
The complaint about that, you know why it's not there anymore from what we hear? First of all, AI said, well, NAU was going to make them pay for parking. Well, they pay for parking now. Okay, the complaint honestly came from the Valley schools. Think it was unfair to go up and play at 7,000 feet.
Really?
Oh wow.
And there's more schools in the Valley than there are up here.
Yeah.
And does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference. We played quite a few games over the years, and in the third quarter, you could kind of see the legs going away on the Valley schools. But it's what it is. So
I get that. Like when I go to Flagstaff and I just walk around the mall, I get kind of tired.
those are shopping legs, man. So, but yeah, I miss Prescott because it's the first initial trip that you win there, you celebrate in the locker room, the crowd celebrates because then you're going to the Final Four. And hopefully this week, if things go our way exactly, we can actually be celebrating in our own locker room. We got to beat Payson, and then Sabino's got to beat Pushridge, and then we would have to beat Sabino on our home court. You shouldn't, my opinion, even though we might be doing it, you shouldn't play a game on your home floor to make the Final Four. It'd be nice if we get there, but it doesn't have the state tournament feel to what it used to be. Prescott was a fun trip for everybody. And Final Four is a fun trip. Despite the fact that you're playing in veterans, you get past that, it's still a really fun trip. I've been fortunate to do it 4 times over these years, and a 5th time would be great. It's just a fun trip. And it's still a different atmosphere where you're down in there, the drive in, you go through the player's entrance, if you call it that. You're in the locker room, you go out in the bright lights and all that stuff. It's still a fun experience. It's just you got to look past the facility that you're in. Whereas when you're at the Glendale Arena or whatever, jobbing.com, whatever it's called now, I've been in 3 different locker rooms in there. They're all primo and nice. One was a hockey locker room. I think the Avalanche locker room, it was about as big as a football field. Big screen TVs everywhere, and had a separate coach's office, separate referee's office. I don't drink alcohol, but you open up the fridge and there's a whole bunch of beer if you want it. So it's a different mindset. You walk back through a big players lounge, I guess it was. And of course, security everywhere. And girls are wide eyed and stuff. And then you're sitting there in the tunnel waiting to run out in front of, at the time, I think it was 12,000 people. And it's just a fun environment.
So did you go in that coach's locker room and just kind of sit there and imagine that?
Yeah, I went. Well, I had to go change clothes because you guys know me. I wear shorts, and I was wearing shorts then, but I did have a change. I had pants for the game, so I had to find a place separate from the girls. And I just went through a door, and it was there. I made sure I get out, and that's where I changed clothes at. So yeah, I was sitting there thinking, must be what most of the guys that sit here are making. Who knows? Mike Budenholzer money, $50 million a year, to be here, and not me. But that's okay. I don't want that kind of pressure. So.
Yeah, I remember, I want to say when I was a teacher, my first year, the first professional development day that we had.
Okay.
And I remember someone told me that Lance made you wear pants to the professional development.
Yeah, I wasn't very happy. I didn't like wearing pants to the first day of school, the first teacher's day back. I wear shorts every day. Comfortable, kind of a thing. I'm from Wyoming where it gets cold. It's not really cold here. Plus, I'm inside all the time. Now, if I was working outside, yeah, I'd definitely wear pants. But I'm not. I'm sitting in a warm office or in a warm gym most of the time. I walk across campus. It's not that far I walk. But yeah, I still wear pants. My wife used to make fun of me. She says, I don't want to hear complaints this year when you have to wear pants to the first day back, where there's no kids. It's just teachers. And I complained every year. I still complain. She's retired, and she laughs, and I still complain. I got to wear pants. And I go wear pants for the first 2 hours. Then I go home and change shorts, come back to work in shorts. And yeah, the professional development, they really got to with Lance. I was like, Lance, I'm sitting under a table the whole time. We got to have professionalism. I said, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm kind of set in my ways.
So I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but you were a horse racer, like Hidalgo, right?
Well, I used to ride horses for 50 or 100-mile races growing up in high school. I've ridden 50 miles, at least 50 miles in a race every state, pretty much west of the Mississippi. Growing up, we grew up on a small horse ranch. I would come home every day after school, ride my horse 20 miles to condition, just like I run my girls in practice condition, 20 miles every day after school, 35 on the weekend, and then the races were either 50 miles or 100 miles. And 100-mile race is actually pretty easy compared to a 50. It's more of a slower pace. Average, I think my best 100-mile time was 11 hours riding time for 100 miles. And they're typically in mountains. 50 miles, it's a 2-hour race, 50 miles. And but the horses they take great care of them. Vet checks every so often. You got to get them in great shape, great physical shape. You couldn't take no offense to anybody, roping horses can't do it because too much muscle. The quarter horses and stuff, they're built for a different thing. Arabians, Morgans, more finer muscle, more ideal for that sort of thing.
What did you have?
We actually had Moabs, which are half Morgan, half Arab. We raised those, and that's the best horse I had was one of those. But it was 20 miles a night after school. Get home at 4 o'clock, do the chores, hop on the horse, 20 miles out in the hills, come back. Hour and a half, 20 miles.
So when was the last time you rode a horse?
1987.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I was pretty good at it. I think I ended up ranked 19th in the nation one year. My horse was good at it. She just carried me. Obviously in great physical shape back then. Couldn't do it now. My horse would die. But, it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. And now horses, I talk to these kids now that have roping horses. It's unbelievable how much money they spend. Unbelievable. I just talked to a girl the other day. Her horse is $20,000. Wow. It's like, that's crazy. My first car was $600. My truck is $10,000, half a horse. It's crazy. And hay down here. I mean, I'm from Wyoming where there's hayfield after hayfield after hayfield. We used to get hay, alfalfa, 3-string bales for $55 a ton. And now what is it? $20 a bale, $15 a bale?
Yeah, that's pretty high.
It's almost 30.
It's crazy. This, everything goes up, but just the stuff people pay here for hay is compared to just different where I'm from.
Yeah. My grandpa, rodeo was his life, and he would always talk about how you really need a good horse for competition, and he went out a few times and spent upwards of that amount that you had mentioned to get a horse, right?
I see it. There's a kid in my class now that he wears an $800 cowboy hat. I said, "You're kidding me." I said, "How much is that hat?" He said, $800. I said, $800 for a hat? I refuse to pay more than $100 for a pair of shoes still. and he was telling me it was horse cost, but he wins money. And you got to have good stock. You got to take care of your stuff to win money. It's just like basketball team. You got to have good girls. They got to be in great shape. There's so many things that go into it to having a good team. But you invest a horse, you got to get some payout at the end somewhere. When these kids tell me I'm going to be a bull rider, I said, "Well, do you have a plan B?" Because very few kids go up to be. There's some bull riders that do amazingly well. Danielle Lohman was a player of mine. Remember, that name? She's a very good roper. She has all kinds of sponsorship, makes tons of money. I'm really proud of her. Good for her. But that's how many more have said they're going to do that and don't.
I had that same thing too when I was a teacher. I had some bull riders in my class, and they told me to go to the county fair because they entered it. And every year at the county fair, as soon as they open those chutes, everyone just falls right off the bull.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just stay on and you'll win the whole entire thing.
Yeah. But, as you go up where you're going to make a lot of money, everybody stays on, you would think. Or, unfortunately, gets a bull stepping on.
Yeah.
So I had a kid that bull snapped his leg. I said, "Now what?" "I don't know." Senior, that was his question. I said, "Now what?" "I don't know." So that's where plan B would have come in.
You had told me a while back, a long time ago, that you actually tried out for, was it, what college did you go to?
University of Wyoming. I tried to walk on. Made it through the first. They had like 3 different levels of cuts. I was a better than average basketball player in high school. Played point guard, which at my size, 6'4", and back then 160 pounds, so like a stick. But I could dribble the ball and I could shoot. But the first time I walked in the court, names that nobody else my age. Well, Bill Garnett, first player drafted by the Mavericks when their expansion draft. We're talking way back. Charles Bradley played for the Celtics, and Bill Engler played for the Celtics on a 10-day contract. They were all in practice, 7-footers. I'm thinking 7-footers. Come on. So I remember the first drill because they throw you in. There's a walk on to start with, and then you just get smashed up against the wall. When a 7-footer elbows you in the back, you move. When you're 6'4" and 160 pounds, and you just go flying. But I made it through the first couple rounds of the walk-ons, and then honestly, practice was 1 to 6, which was tough in college. And I knew I was in college to get a degree, not play basketball. It was kind of a dream. Also ended up having our first kid in college, and the basketball dream had to go away, which is a good thing. Got exposed to it a little bit, but I knew I still liked the game, and I knew I wanted to coach the game. But yeah, I just wasn't good enough. Flat out, honestly, just wasn't good enough.
Uh-huh.
I was better than some of them that tried out, but not as good as the elite level.
Uh-huh. You had told me that one of the initial tasks you had to do was dunk it.
Oh yeah, which I could do as a freshman. 6'4" and skinny, I could jump. Yeah, you had to. The first drill was our coach was named Kenneth Ollie. He said, "Okay, you got 4 dribbles, dunk on each end." And I'm like, "What?" Okay, but in practice you messed around dunking all the time in high school, and because it was fun. But then to do it I could do it fortunately, but some of the kids, couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first kind of separation. And some of the kids at 5'8", 5'10" could do it. It's like, dang.
Oh, really?
Welcome to the new world. So
Perkins was dunking at our practice in high school too, man. He could
yeah,
get it.
the last time I dunked, I was 31 years old in Munoz Gym on the South Basket in a men's tournament,
Uh-huh.
and
Wow.
that was it. So it's been 60 some years, or it's been 30 some years since then. So
Have you attempted recently?
heck no, my left knee, I could probably jump, but landing wouldn't be good. So my left knee doesn't work that much anymore, and I
Put some
can't even.
cushion down for you.
What's that?
We'll put some cushion down for you.
No, the cushion won't help the surgery. So now I stand outside and shoot threes. So
Well, the highest I could ever jump was maybe to touch the backboard. That was probably the
Really?
highest I ever jumped in my life.
well, one of the drills we had to do in college was 2 balls, or get a ball with 2 hands. You had to jump every time. You had to slam the ball at the backboard
Uh-huh.
with 2 hands up.
And
That
when
was different level.
When
So,
I mean touch the backboard, I mean I had to like really jump to touch the backboard.
it's kind of funny. Over all these years, we've had a couple boys that could dunk. I think it's fun watching them try because they think they're missing the rim by 6-8 inches. And I told them, I said, to dunk, you've got to be, your wrist has to go over the rim unless you can palm it, and none of them can.
Uh-huh.
And how do you know? I said, well, I used to dunk. Of course, they don't believe me, and that's okay.
Uh-huh.
But I said I was 6'4" and skinny, and I could jump. And now I'm 6'3", not skinny, and can't jump. So life won.
Uh-huh.
But I still enjoy the game. So
Uh-huh.
and I don't even try to dunk anymore. I can touch the net. By standing there, I don't even jump to touch the net. So
So, you and I have talked about this before, but and I don't remember what your response to it was. But out of all the years you've been here in this region, who's like the best player you've seen come out of the North or the East?
out of the East, Madison Chapel for
Out
girls.
of the East. Mhm.
She was, and she's one of my coaches now. Just her overall athletic ability. She was so quick for a girl her size. Just as far as best overall player. I've had better post players. I've had better guards. Overall, probably Maddie. She's just a natural talent. She won Player of the Year. She was Player of the Year in the East Region 4 years in a row. To win that as a sophomore is pretty telling. And then she was Player of the Year in the state her senior year, even though we didn't go Final Four that year. My best team didn't make the Final Four. Which was my fault. And I tell the girls that. I made a coaching mistake against Paige in the Prescott game, and still kind of haunts me because that was the team before that went to the state. They were state runners up. Most of them were back, including Maddie. That had the Abler girl, was 6 foot tall, very good player. That was the best overall girls talent-wise team I've ever had. And we got beat by Paige. Ryan Whitehorse did a great job of coaching, and I made an adjustment too late on something. And it cost us. We ended up losing by 6 or 8 points. I can't remember what it was. So that one's kind of hurts because that was the best overall team I've had. This year's team, similar type team. I don't have Maddie Chapel, of course. Very few teams do. But similar kind of team. We got to go that far, you got to get breaks to go your way. And I don't have any size. Don't have any 6-footers. But this year, maybe the break that goes our way is the format. Who knows? But yeah, that was probably the best team I've ever had. And the best boy player for Holbrook was Torian, probably. Torian Epps. And he was there the other day for the boys' game. 30 years old now. He's still playing basketball somewhere in Michigan. Great guy. He was super athletic, super talented. Jalen Jackson was good. There's been quite a few boys over the years.
I always say it was Cordero Bennett, but
Cordero was a nice kid. There were some things I wasn't real popular with why he was here, but as a kid, he was a great kid. I don't even have any idea where he's at now. Cordero was a heck of a player, no question, and probably put in a tough situation. Kind of, this is the whole thing, but great kid, good player. But as far as overall Holbrook kids, probably Torian and Jalen was good. Just good athletes. There's been so many. My favorite 3 players I coach boys. Eric Tyler, great guy. Now he's a doctor. Okay, Troy Goldtooth, great guy, and Matt Castile, probably the 3 top male athletes that I've coached, and all still doing very well. I talk to them once in a while. I see them once in a while. Just great kids that are now they're 40. Yeah, you might have played with Troy. Did you play with Troy?
Yeah, Troy and Eric too.
And Eric, yeah, and just different kind of kids. And obviously been at Holbrook now 33 years. Seen a lot of good athletes go through for all different sports. But
What about in the 90s as far as other schools? Do you have any memorable players?
Well, Devin Dugai. No, he was 2001, I think. The Utes boys from Coolidge, Randy Utsi, and I think can't remember, one of them played professional baseball. I think it might have been Randy. They were super. I mean, just the guy had a cannon for an arm. And he was out there flipping passes, and I used to do radio for football, and he was just flipping passes 60, 70 yards with effortless. Then I'm pretty sure he went on to play professional baseball. Around this area, Winslow had a couple of really good players, football and baseball. The names kind of go away. The one girl from Winslow who's now a doctor, I believe. What was her name? Shoot.
Yeah.
Can't think of her name. I can picture her. She was tough. She was
Michelle Tong.
What's that? Michelle
Tong.
Yeah, her, and then there's another girl. She was good, but there's another one that was really good. I ended up playing at Cal Santa Barbara on a basketball scholarship. Her dad's a doctor. I think she is now too.
What about Averly? Not Averly. You're not talking about Averly, right?
Well, Averly is still around. The mom.
Yeah.
She played at I want to say San Diego State. Yeah, she played at San Diego State. A very good talent in her time. That was a little bit before I started coaching girls. Can't think of the girl's name.
The girl, I think, is her last name Armeo?
Shandine Armeo. Yeah, Shandine Armeo was a really good player. Just a beast. Jamie Rowe played for Tuba City. The dad was Jamie, coached the boys, but Jamie Rowe, she ended up playing at Texas Tech, the Division I level. And now she's back coaching, I think, junior high kids. So it's good to see these kids that grow up to become adults that kind of come back. It's too many kids don't ever leave the area. It's good to see the ones that go away and do their thing and then come back and, in a sense, give back, if you will, but they have success coming back. Jamie Rowe was a beast. She was a middle linebacker playing girls basketball. And to watch her play at Texas Tech, which is Division I, that's as high as you go, and do well. She played at Central, which back in the 90s, Central was the real deal for junior college girls basketball. Central was national ranked all the time. And she went there, and then she went from there to Texas Tech. And Jamie was about 6 foot and built like a linebacker and tough.
So I'm of the opinion right now that all the girls that play in the North and the East, I think the best player is Raquel Wilson from Sholo.
All-around player, maybe. The quickest, no question. She is the best defensive player. I'll give you that. I thought her sister last year was better than she was. Okay, Rebecca, just a better overall player. Raquel is a defensive nightmare for us. She's so quick, long arms, anticipates everything really well. And she's a great soccer player. And I think that's where it transfers over to basketball because she understands the angles and she's super fast. She's an amazing kid. Talking to her off the court, even after games, she's just super nice, super polite. Best defensive player I probably ever coached against because she just creates so much havoc. And she's in a team with the right coach, the right philosophy. I think the one thing she lacks to make her maybe the best all-around player, she's a good outside shooter, not a great outside shooter. She's right-handed, loves to go left. If you ever watch her play much, she starts right, and she's deadly going left, which is unusual for kids. Some will start left and like to go right. Makes her hard to guard. She is very good. As far as I just think the one thing lacking would be, and maybe it's because people guard her so much that she has a tough time shooting threes, would be that part of her game. I thought her older sister was a little bit better. Just harder to guard, a little taller. They're both really good. And they both came from St. John's. Imagine those two girls on St. John's team.
Wow.
And St. John's would have won a couple state titles with it. And Sholo may well, this year they won't. They may win an open title.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's the caveat, an open title.
Yeah,
Sure.
but Raquel's and she's a sweet girl, and she's a very, very good player. She's probably the best individual player in the East this year.
Yeah, it seems like there's always some players that just kind of stand out from their teams. Raquel Wilson's one of them from Sholo. Karen Mann from Monument Valley.
Yeah, because Kara does so much. Jaslyn at Alchester for the last 4 years. Jaslyn Nosey. She's playing, I believe, at Haskell. She was so good and just a wisp of a girl. Nothing to her. Was she 5'5", maybe 120 pounds? So good. And you see this year where I'll just say, as Rick does a great job with them, you see where they are without her, just because she made everybody in her team so much better. They're still good, but they lost to Sabino, and we were able to beat them twice this year as well. There's very few Jaslyn's come along, very few Madison Chapels come along, very few Raquel Wilsons come along. So it's just something up here in our level we don't get a lot of. Now, if you're sitting there and you're in one of those private schools in the Valley and you see somebody out in Utah, you go get them.
Wow.
Which doesn't make it a fair playing field, really. But is what it is. So,
Do you have a question, Mac?
How long when did you get to Holbrook? Like, how did you end up in Holbrook?
92. We came from Wyoming, teaching jobs. So 92 we got here, and we enjoyed it. Raised our kids here, and I have a granddaughter who lives in Bellingham, Washington now. So there's a pull to go that way. Unfortunately, the pull doesn't include house exchange money. More expensive to live out there than it is here. But
Has it always been like that, or just recently?
Well, my daughter moved out there to Seattle 4 or 5 years ago. Seattle's crazy expensive. I mean, crazy expensive. And Bellingham, Washington, where she is now, is even more expensive. But just, and the housing, I probably should have sold my house 2 years ago when the housing market went crazy here. Probably could have gotten good enough money to go buy a fixer-upper there now. If I sold my house here for what I think it's worth here, it would be a fixer-upper where my granddaughter is.
For some reason, I was thinking she was in Wyoming. That's why I asked that.
Not going back to Wyoming. Only because the wintertime. Today, I know it's 20 below zero.
So you'd be wearing pants right now up there.
Oh, yeah. I never wore shorts in Wyoming. 20 below zero is, I like when kids here say it's cold out. Well, it is for here. And my junior year of high school was 56 below.
Wow.
We didn't have school for a week with blue skies. It was 56 below zero. It warmed up to 35 below. And then it finally got to zero. We were all out there in shirt sleeves. It was so nice when it got to zero. It was like, oh, it feels so good.
I want to say the coldest I've ever experienced here was maybe like -1 or something. 2.
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen it here 5 below in my time here, which, okay, it's 5 below. I remember when it warmed up to that. So the difference is Wyoming's a great place in the summertime.
He said he had one that you wanted to ask.
Yeah. I guess in preparing the girls and all that, I noticed that the other day when Snowflake came up, they had a kind of different warm up.
Well, the Snowflake's second game, okay, we caught them in a good time. They had played Safford the night before we played them in Safford. They got back about midnight, which honestly for our girls, not a big thing because our girls are used to traveling a lot. A lot of them go home hour after practice, as you well know. Yeah. It's a long journey. The girls spend a lot of time in the vehicle. They got home at midnight. They expected nothing from us because Snowflake expected to pound us pretty easy. We played them last summer, and we had a 12-point lead with a minute to go, and we lost. But we knew we could play them. And then defensively, we did something. Offensively, we did something they weren't quite ready for. And we blew the game open with threes, back to our three-point shooting. The fourth quarter, we hit, I think, 4, maybe 5 threes, and kind of built a lead and won. He told me, I know that coach really well. He told me, he said, since that game, he said, we watch that film every day. He says, and then we break down certain girls that loafed it in that game, that didn't play 100%. He says, since that game, we've changed our pregame warm-up. And I noticed it too. I knew we were in trouble that night. Honestly, I did. I told my assistants, I said, they're coming after us. We're in trouble. Because their focus and their intensity, because first of all, they don't like losing to Holbrook in anything. That's just Snowflake. And he does a great job with them. And I saw that warm-up. I was like, okay, there's something different. He says, we've been doing that since you guys beat us.
Oh, really?
So that was the mindset. And they pounded us pretty good. And good for them.
Going forward, do you want to maybe prepare the girls in a similar way, maybe?
You know, it's a fine line between being too serious at the wrong time and being too joking at the wrong time. You know me, I'm a pretty sarcastic guy. I get along with my girls. I like to keep things pretty light. We have to be able to flip the switch a little bit when we step on the floor. And for the most part, they do a pretty good job of it. I don't think my girls would respond, I could be wrong, respond real well to that type of a thing. I do not, hey, go warm up hard, get a sweat going. I think physiologically that's good for you. Get a sweat going, be ready to go. But yeah, and they always happen over these years. Very few of them, and maybe it's just me, and maybe we've lost some games because of it. And we've lost games because I won't play zone. There's no question there. But we've won a lot of games playing the way we do play that we probably shouldn't have. And I like to keep them kind of loose and lighthearted till it's time to go. When it's time to go, then they got to be focused. So that kind of warm up, I get it. There's a lot of, when you coach, there's a lot of experts in the stands, and I get it. Then good for them. Not saying I'm an expert at all, which I'm far from it. Won a lot of games, but far from an expert. And everybody has their way. My way has proven pretty effectively over all these years with the girls, and honestly, I don't anticipate changing it a whole lot. It's been working for us, so not saying I can't do better, because certainly I can. But as far as back to your question, no, we'll keep with our same warm up.
Okay.
For one thing, the girls know it,
Yeah.
and it's embarrassing to try to learn something or run something in front of everybody that you don't know. I've had that happen before too. Run a new drill and the ball goes flying out of bounds over and over again. So it's like, come on, girls. But you can tell even in our warm ups. I can tell if the girls are in it or not. Some girls are out there laughing, joking around. They can't catch the ball, shooting air balls. Then we get on a little bit. Say, hey, or I might change starters real quick.
Yeah.
Say, well, you're not ready to go. You guys seen that? How many times have I been in a game where I pulled all 5 starters right off the bat?
Yeah.
I was just I said next 5 go, and I said they're not ready to play. Instead of using a timeout to chew them out, that's their chew out sort of. Sit there on the bench for a couple minutes and kind of refocus. Now, hopefully you don't get too far behind, but then you go back in, and usually, not always, usually they play better.
Yeah, I've noticed that where they might make some kind of mistake, and then they hear the bell, or was it a buzzer? They hear the buzzer and they know they're coming out. So
and that's a tough thing. But like I tell the girls, and unfortunately some parents, different girls have different jobs. Look at a girl like Madison Chapel. She did everything. Get a night where she throws the ball away a couple times. She does so many other things well. And I have girls like that now. They do a lot of things well. So they're having an off night on 1 or 2 things. Contrary, if you're a role player, you come in and you have a certain job to do, or certain 2 jobs to do, and you don't do that job, then you might hear the horn coming out. And that takes a whole season to get used to. And I hear it from players. I hear it from parents, indirectly from parents. Well, how come my daughter goes out when she makes the same mistake this girl made? But parents, you're there to watch your kid. I get it. And I understand that. They don't always understand it, but it's a process. And I would love to see all my kids on my bench play all the time. It just, at varsity level, it doesn't work out that way. My JV and freshman level, the kids all play. And I want them all playing. But varsity level, I'd like to see them all play. But varsity, we're obviously, this time of year especially, I had 3 girls not play the other night, I think. At this point in the season, it's 100% trying to get the win. Because it's a state tournament. That's what you do.
Yeah, totally understood. One thing I noticed, the full court press. And it's not just the varsity girls that I've noticed have problems with it, but you go down to the junior high, and the junior high girls have a problem with the full court press as well. Whereas we got to see the tournament last weekend. Winter Rock girls, the junior high I'm talking, they just know how to get out of those full court presses, how to do a full court press and how to get out of it. And
yeah, it's full court press takes time. You got to be in great shape. Number one, it takes time, a lot of teaching. You got to be able to take your half court defensive principles and extend to 94 feet, basically, and got to have speed. Yeah, Winter Rock, from what I've been told, has 3 extremely good 8th graders that will more than likely start on varsity next year. I've been told that from a couple of people. Their 8th grader team is just loaded. Probably some of those girls involved. So yeah, when you've been doing a lot, it helps, and got to have the right kind of team. And this year I thought, like I said, going in, I thought I had that kind of team this year. As it turned out, we don't. Now we do have the ability to throw it on once in a while. We just can't do it for the whole game. We're not the kind of team I thought we would have. But we're pacing Macy a little bit on Monday, here and there. We can throw it on once in a while.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is your team has a hard time with going against the full court press and passing out of it sometimes. It was worse, I think, earlier in the season.
Yeah, we struggled early on. Now when you work against it in practice, there's an old saying in basketball: teams that press don't like to be pressed, even though you see it in practice all the time. And that is a saying that's kind of true. Teams that press a lot don't like to be pressed. And we were kind of stuck in that middle. And it's not that they don't know how to do it, but sometimes you get in a game, you freak out. I've told some of my senior guards, stop dribbling to the sideline. How many times I tell you that? Practice games, and what do? They get in the game, they dribble to the sideline. It's not like we don't know how to do it. Sometimes, the brain turns off, and that's where the team wants us. I said, when we're trapping teams, where do we want them? On the sideline. Where's the ball got to go? In the middle. If you're coaching against the press, where can the ball not go? In the middle. So it's just the same and we all do the same things. There's no new invention of a press that nobody hasn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the girls before the game, I'll tell them again on Monday. I told them in practice, I said, the girls, there's nothing they can do that we haven't seen, especially with seniors. There's nothing Payson can throw at us that you haven't seen along the way somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing we can do to them. Well, there's a couple things we're going to try to do that maybe they haven't seen this year. But it's all comes down to moving the ball quick, stay out of the trap, stay off the sideline. And it's just a matter of basketball's not that complicated. It's just you got to have real quick reactions, and you got to know what's coming next. That's the biggest thing is girls get the ball, they'll see one step, and they have a tough time seeing the next step beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the key.
Yeah.
That I found. Some girls are very good at it. Some girls not so much. But you got to be able to see the next step kind of before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's been a roller coaster season, I feel like, for your team.
it has. We struggled early. Started great. Struggled for a while. Got to that midpoint. The Chinle Prep tournament helped us a lot. Got those 4 wins, helped us a lot. I think I don't even know what a record. I think we're close to 500, maybe a little bit above since that stretch in January. Playing some pretty good basketball. We played pretty well against Chinle. Chile's a better team. They beat us by, I don't know what it was, 8, 9 points, 10 points. Defensively, we just knew you can't make a mistake against a team like Chinle. And we made too many mistakes, and they scored on them. And that's just going forward. We can't make too many mistakes against Payson. Payson brings a kind of good set of challenges, a quick muscular guard, and some size. And that's given us problems before.
I did watch the Payson Page game.
Yeah.
And
good game.
It was a good game, and the Payson, put themselves in position to win.
They did. Yep.
Against Page.
Payson probably should have beat Snowflake. You watch that game. It was a 4-point game, and they had a 2-point game. They had a girl hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And we've known she's a senior. They start 4 seniors, which it'll be a challenge. But we kind of know what they all do. So at this point, it comes down to really whoever takes the best care of the ball and whoever shoots the ball best typically wins. And we're hoping we can do both those. Okay. And if you can, and then either we're going to Tucson on Friday or Tucson's coming to us. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we like the latter, but we got to win first. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. So,
do you have any other questions back?
I'm good.
Okay, well, Greg, we want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. It was a really great and insightful conversation that we had with you.
Sure. I wouldn't offend too many people too bad, but that's all right. So.
What do you think of the, this isn't exactly new media, but it's fairly new and to the, I guess, maybe older people, a podcast style of a.
Well, it's fun. My son listens to it a lot. He's a big professional sports podcast guy. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I've never listened to one until you asked me about this. I listened to yours, the one you guys did. I don't know, probably your second or third one. The first podcast I've ever listened to. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, because I like talking sports with people. Uh-huh. Just I'm kind of a music guy when I'm driving by myself. So I don't know, maybe I'll start listening to podcasts. Now, my oldest son, or my youngest son listens to them all the time. My oldest son probably too, all the time. Because I was listening to this podcast. So, well, okay. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe a podcast is a modern day thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like an extension of the radio, basically. You do radio sometimes, or not anymore, but
I actually broadcasted games for quite a while, both with what's now Sports Zone and iTalk. So, and I've been maybe down the road. We'll see. Uh-huh. They both kind of asked me if I want to do it when I retire. But so I'm used to one of these mics being here and headset and all that stuff.
Yeah, for us, it was a learning experience.
Yeah. No, you guys, good job.
I thought it'd be easy to do it, but sometimes it's kind of hard. I feel like I have a lot more words to say outside of a podcast, so talking to people, but on the but on the podcast, sometimes I kind of start repeating what I use, using the same word twice and in the same sentence.
It's I don't know. I talk really fast in my normal life. I probably talk really fast on the radio too, podcast. But I tell my kids in class, "You talk too fast." I said, "No, you got to listen faster." So I ain't slowing down. So in a timeout in basketball, you got 1 minute to say stuff. They don't remember it anyway, but you got 1 minute to say stuff. I'll never forget. Real quick, call a timeout. Girl, a couple years ago, called the timeout. Drew up a play specifically for this girl, and I could see look in her eyes. She had one of my old coaches said, like, looking through the screen door eyes. She had no idea. So I grabbed her. I said, "You know what you're doing? You know what you're doing?" She said, "Yeah, yeah." So we break the huddle. She goes out. I grab her by the arm. "You know what you're doing, right?" She says, "I have no idea." So there's your version of what can go on. So change the play real quick because she had no idea, but because she said it's too loud, I couldn't hear you talking. It happens. So
Wow. Yeah. Well, again, like I said, thank you for coming on the podcast. We'd love to have you again at some point later on in the year. Maybe you can give us some updates on whatever changes.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be some, but we'll see.
Changes or rumors about what's going on at the AIA.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, good luck to your team. I know I'm gonna be driving down tomorrow to support and
appreciate that.
Get some footage as well.
Yeah.
And Mac, do you have anything else to include there?
Oh man, good luck.
Thank you. Take your earplugs. That gym is so loud.
Yeah.
One person makes that gym loud. I can imagine. I think we'll have a pretty good showing down there being a holiday.
It's an echo, huh? A lot.
It echoes. Terrible echoes.
Yeah.
And locker room is about as big as this room right here. It's something else. So.
Yeah, I think maybe I played there in junior high once.
Yeah, our girls have always shot the ball well. I'm hoping that trend continues. For whatever reason, we shoot the ball pretty well in that gym, and we have to tomorrow to have a chance because they're really good. They've only lost, I think, 4 games all year. So we got a challenge.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And everybody, please, like and subscribe the video. Please share it with everybody that you know. We are the Sports on I-40 podcast, and we hope to continue to bring you content like this as we move forward in this journey. And please go out and support your teams, especially those that are in the playoffs right now. Not just Holbrook, but whoever's listening. If your team is in there, go out and support the teams. They put a lot of effort into it, and it means a lot to them as well when they see their fans come to support them. So again, thank you for watching.